Hi, I'm Rob Opdycke, Director of Music at the Roxbury Latin School and Director of the Roxbury Latin Glee Club, which is just wrapping up its spring tour of Puerto Rico.
All right. So, what is the purpose of the Roxbury spring tour, and why they choose this year Puerto Rico?
The purpose of the tour is to give the boys a chance to bring their music to wider audiences. They rehearse very hard throughout the school year, and we learn a different array of repertoire. And so every March we go somewhere different, sometimes within the 48, 50 United States, and sometimes abroad, of course, here in the Caribbean and the U.S. territory. It's wonderful to be in Puerto Rico, and I've taken them to Europe a couple times as well. And we first thought of Puerto Rico. I have a colleague who is a Spanish teacher, and he is from here. He grew up in Puerto Rico, so I used his advice a lot to set up this tour.
All right. So by which year they started the Glee Choir and the capella group, the Latonics?
By which year?
Yeah.
When that? So the Glee Club's been around a very long time. It's well before I was a member of the group. The school itself is very old, and so the Glee Club has been, as far as I know, it stretches well back into the 20th century, if not before. So the 1900s. The Latonics was known as the small group in sort of the mid 20th century, and actually our current headmaster used to be music director. He directed the small group, and then it got the name the Latonics sometime in the 1990s, and that's a play on Roxbury Latin Latonics. So that's where the name comes from, and so the name's been around since the 90s, but the group's been around a couple more decades than that.
All right. So what is the purpose, the goal, and objective of both groups?
The objective of both groups is to expose the students to a variety of men's choral music. We are an all-boys school, so we have only boys at the school, and there's a great wealth of choral repertoire for men. There are lots of collegiate groups that are still just men, and so we expose the boys to a variety, from sacred music to secular, folk songs, popular music, show tunes, to get them used to singing as an ensemble. It's really a team activity, just like a sport is playing together on a team. And the Latonics, which is smaller, can do more sophisticated, more difficult harmonies, more complicated arrangements. And so it's to challenge them, expose them to a variety of music, and hopefully inspire them as artists.
All right. How many performances are in each group?
How many
performances in each group?
How many performers in each group? Sorry. So back home, we have 85 in the Glee Club, and the Latonics are always 15. And so on this trip, not everyone signs up for the trip. There's lots of other things going on, lots of other options from our school. So we brought to Puerto Rico 30 members of the Glee Club, and half of them, 15, are members of the Latonics for this tour.
All right. I noticed that you are very vocal, charismatic, energetic, and also talk with a lot of passion when you talk before a song and after a song. What is that, and what is the reason to do that?
Part of the way I work with the boys, part of the way I lead the boys is, I suppose, by example. I myself am a vocal performer. I'm a singer, and so I enjoy showing them how to project your voice. I try to do my best to relate to an audience, even though I know, unfortunately, I only know English, and I know much of my audience would prefer me to speak in Spanish. But in terms of being animated and vocal, I try to show the boys what it's like to be in front of a crowd, what it means to project, and hopefully they can pick up a little bit of that when some of them are in my shoes.
All right. Sunday, the group was in the chapel of the Universidad Sagrado Corazón and performing during the Mass and after the Mass.
Mm-hmm.
You know the acoustic of the chapel is designed with for music.
Yeah.
How was the experience, and would you like to repeat that in another time?
Yes, thanks for asking. Yeah, the acoustic was really a great experience, and when we sang for the Mass, we were up behind in the choir area, and of course then the sound is carried right through the upper part of the space and sort of rains down, if you will, on the congregation, and that was that I was told by people who heard both spots that was actually the better sound overall. And it's funny, to the singers, there's more of a ceiling back there in that area, so to the singers that sounded more normal. It sounded like we were in a room. Whereas when we moved to the front, we could hear more of the resonance and the reverb and the echoes. But I was told that that for the audience, it actually wasn't as impressive and didn't feel quite the same way as it did when we were up above. But both places were great to sing from, and I certainly would love to be an acoustic like that again. Yeah.
So how was the experience on Tuesday in Cuartel de Ballajá? It's like an open pace. How the Tuesday affect you over there, or was no problem over there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So Tuesday at the University of Puerto Rico?
No. Cuartel Ballajá.
Oh, yes, at the barracks and whatnot. Yes, so that's interesting. That was open. It was open, and yet so you get a longer echo. Obviously, open ceiling. We had them stand, I don't know, about 20 meters from the actual corner, and it sometimes in the open air the sound just dissipates. There was enough of obviously it's a courtyard, it's a square, and you could hear some background resonance certainly. So that was interesting to hear. That's when I tried to use my biggest voice announcing to make sure it would cut through and fill up. But that surprised me. That location, Ballajá, surprised me with how resonant it was, because usually in open air spaces you don't get that much feedback. But it was good. It was good.
How was to see the reaction of the public over there in Cuartel Ballajá?
It was wonderful. So I tried to tell the boys it can be daunting to perform without an audience sitting in front of you, without an expectant audience who's come to buy tickets to see you, or has gone to a mass and then stays to see you. That can be intimidating, but there's a street performer tradition that I'm experienced in. I performed a lot for just the general public, and you basically gotta sort of bring them in and call out to them, and they'll respond when they hear good music. And they'll stop, and their phones will come out, and they'll record it, and it's a great experience for the boys to see. So it was rewarding to see the crowd stop. And
also the presentation at theater.Also, how was the experience over there?
Yeah, more of the same. It was great to be well received by really all the people around here, and each venue was slightly different, but it was all a positive experience.
And also the Museo one, the Museo de Puerto Rico, how was the activity over there also?
That was an opportunity, given its setup, that it's big atrium, ground floor, second floor balcony, and we were given advice to try to do the second floor approach. Some of the boys were a little skeptical because you're so much separated from an audience down below and the singers up above. They were worried that they were so far distance-wise, but the sound, similar to what we talked about in the Sacred Heart Chapel, the sound carries over and rains down, and so it was a good acoustic. It gave us a chance for one piece to do an antiphonal setup, where most of the choir was on one side and three singers were on the other side, and that particular piece was designed to be antiphonal, so it gave us that opportunity.
And I know that you performed over there Ave Maria, also.
That's the piece I was talking about. Yes, the Ave Maria by Franz Biebel is designed to have an antiphonal effect against a smaller ensemble against a larger ensemble. So.
In Sagrado, you sing the Impossible Dream by
from Man of La Mancha. Yes, from the Don Quixote story. Yeah, we only sang that. We were only able to sing that where we had a piano. We do much of our stuff a cappella without accompaniment, and we have a handful of songs that have accompaniment. And so at the University of the Sacred Heart, we were fortunate enough in the chapel to have a piano, and that was our first performance. So we did everything with piano, knowing that would likely be the only chance. And so that was one of the favorites. I think we did it second to last. That was one of the favorites in that particular concert.
All right. You performed the song "The Club Ranchero." It's one of the more popular songs of Puerto Rico. Why you choose that over other popular songs of Puerto Rico?
I was definitely, when we decided we would come here, we were definitely going to perform something from the island. And I actually met with a mother of two of our students. I was an advisor of one of the students for a long time. That mother Vanessa Calderon Rosado is from Puerto Rico, so we met and talked about possible connections and gigs, and she gave me a list of possible songs that she thought and some of her relatives thought might be accessible. So I looked online for some recording examples. The Cumanchero, at first you hear the heavy instrumentation and the very sort of popular take on it, but I actually found a couple choral versions. I found an arrangement where a choir was performing it, and it seemed very doable. It was a mixed choir. It was girls and boys, and so we just rearranged. We took that arrangement and we just made it work for all boys, and that led to that.
Jacob, I hear the version like the coro de UPR, the choir of San Juan, or Kids of San Juan, they also do the
version. So that arrangement seemed to be pretty prominent. I'm sorry, I forget the arranger actually, but again online was able to sort of, through recordings, I was able to track down the arrangement and the arranger, and then was able to procure the piece and set it up for all men. So
it was like Rafael Hernandez.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
You should know. Yes, that's right. Very good.
All right, it's gonna be any message you want to, like how's been the experience here in Puerto Rico, and you would like the Roxbury Latin School to move back and do more performers with another groups over there in the future?
Yes, I'm always pleased with how well we're received. It has never been a better tour in terms of a welcoming audience, a welcoming culture and a place, and I hope to be doing this for many more years. So far, in the first 18 years that I've been at the school, I haven't repeated a location, and sooner or later I will start repeating because there's only so many desirable, effective destinations to go. I will definitely be coming back at some point in the next decade or so to Puerto Rico, and having learned what I did from this trip, seeing the destinations we were able to perform at, I look forward to repeating a lot of what we did with a new set of boys, but also we've made some connections with people, and I would love to do more collaborating with other choruses here, and so I look forward to sometime in the future absolutely bringing them back.
Because here they have the Universidad, they have a lot of presence over there. They have Rio Piedra, Mayagüez, Calle. They all have choirs. Also Sagrado have choirs. All the university here, they appreciate more the choir music.
Yeah. I think that's, when I do it again, that's going to be the way to go, is to make connections with those and have, we've done, in past tours, we've done rehearsal exchanges where even if we're not performing in the public, we come to a rehearsal and perform for each other, and that's a fulfilling thing as well. So that's good to know for my next visit.
And also they have to also hear the Institute of Culture in Puerto Rico. They do the festival almost. They started last year. They have all the choirs in Puerto Rico, and also in San Juan. They also do another choir event. So they appreciate more like the choir music here in Puerto Rico, but in the US, it's the same thing with the choirs.
Well, it's helpful when you find a festival. It's helpful when you find a consortium. Last year, our tour took us to what was called the Intercollegiate Men's Choruses National Seminar. It's basically a foundation or an association that celebrates men's choral music, which I was talking about earlier. So the U.S. is definitely supportive of choral music. I mean, obviously, there's so much for any given consumer now to have music that they love of any popular style, or to go to the symphony or the opera, and so I mean, choral music is as strong as ever. It's as beautiful as ever. I talked about variety earlier. I love keeping the tradition of wonderful Renaissance and Baroque and early music, and yet there's some beautiful new music being written as well. Really exciting sonorities coming in new choral music as well. So I think all over, in my experience, which is of course the U.S. and the few places I've been abroad, choral music is quite strong. Yes.
And also, how's the fact that right now the people that also in Puerto Rico and U.S. the musicals?
Musicals, yeah. Musical theater is a great way for people to be involved. Currently, some of our boys are in production of Stephen Sondheim's Into the Woods, which is a fun musical I've been involved in. And again, we're a boys' school, so we team up with a girls' school in Boston called the Windsor School for our musical theater productions. But that's popular. That was, I think, for youth, it's always been popular, but it was re-energized by the High School Musical movie franchise. And also, singing in general, something like Glee or Pitch Perfect, the Pitch Perfect movies, have helped energize singing a lot in sort of pop culture.
How great was that they do Hamilton like using rap and hip hop,
Oh,
and also the education.Also school, they implement that to the curriculum.
Yes, yeah, I've heard that. Hamilton is just so good for bridging musical theater and popular music. Just having hip hop be accepted in the Broadway scene is wonderful. Remind me, it's the composer.
Luis Manuel Miranda.
Miranda, of course, he's a genius. He's tremendous. I've been thrilled with everything I've heard by him.
Also, the a cappella music. How after Pitch Perfect, the movie, how been the experience over there?
Yeah, a cappella music. So that's been my, I don't want to say specialty. I've been involved in that since college, and I'm in a professional group as well. It's always been sort of a niche group. It goes back to, it goes back to the Nylons and even I saw them in concert. There's older doo-wop groups. But then rockapella in the early '90s had a show. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? They were part of that show, and so it's always had a niche. And there have been great collegiate groups in the Boston area, across the country. But then with Sing Off, which is a show, sort of a contest on one of the U.S. networks that was quite popular, and one of the winners of Sing Off was the Latonics, one of the more famous professional groups now. And they're, I think, more ubiquitous than rockapella ever was. They're played in mixes with real pop music. I shouldn't say real versus not real, but with instrumental pop music. So acapella, Pitch Perfect movies, the Sing Off show, the fact that we're in a digital age where it's so easy to share music, acapella has never been stronger.
And also you sing the Sing Off, the first group that won was Nota, a Puerto Rico band. Then in fusion, so Latin music, some salsa, merengue. They win the first competition.
And I missed the first season. I got really into it the second season when Pentatonics won. One of our students was in the Dartmouth Airs, who finished second in that particular year. So I didn't realize that Puerto Rico had that first shot. Good for them. Good for that group.
It's nice to have seeing the movies and research, and it's a very tough competition over there. Yes. They take very serious the cappella over there.
That's great to hear. We're with some singers at the University of Puerto Rico who were hanging with us after our gig, who were very, very much into the pentatonics and very, very good singers themselves.
So the influence is very good, like with the capella and the choir.
Yeah, the influence is great. Yeah.
So how you see the future music on the choir, a cappella, musical theater? How you see the future?
I see the future is with these young people being interested in it, and I think I was saying a bit ago with the digital age and the ability to call up any song on YouTube or Spotify, or I think it's going to be more and more mainstream. I think people who I see students not putting themselves in boxes of I only like hip hop, or I only like pop, or I only like country. So I think that bodes well for the future of a cappella and choral music. People consume different styles in different ways throughout their lives, throughout their days, and so I think the future bodes well. And I mean, that's just sort of commercial consumption, but I think the art form will always be transcendent. It will always be meaningful to the people who make the music. I said before, it's a team endeavor. It is. It's such a coordinated effort that's needed to produce that team endeavor. So, future is bright.
All right. So, any message to the parents that to tell to the kids that don't study music, it's not good, or have a career in music? What message you get to the parents and
Well,
family?
yeah, so the career piece, yeah, so I understand the practicality of, well, a music career is uncertain, and you may not make it big, and you may have to struggle for a while. A couple of things, you know, if you want to go for it as your main livelihood, that's one thing, and that's I certainly appreciate following that dream. Most of the boys I work with are not going to be professional musicians. But the great thing about being a singer or any type of musician is that you can still have that love and still produce music even if it's not what you do for a living. You can be a doctor who sings in a choir. You can be a teacher who teaches something other than music but is a musician as well. You can do a lot, and music can be a part of your life. So for I think parents should certainly encourage music as part of the overall experience.
All right. So any message to close the interview, like something to people in Puerto Rico or to the community for choir or a capella, you want to tell a message?
My final message is first one of gratitude, of thanks for receiving us this past week. But in a larger sense, if anyone is interested in singing, find an opportunity. If your school or your community doesn't have a choir, it's something that can be started. It's something that, again, nowadays with arrangements that can be found online, with ways of finding pieces, it can be, if you take initiative, it can be one of the most rewarding things ever. And from what I've seen of the people here and their enthusiasm for the arts and for music, I expect it'll be strong for a long time to come.
All right. So thank you, Robert. So that was a great experience. So maybe see you in another year in the future. That would be great.
We'll see you down the road. Thank you.
So thank you, Robert. That was Mr. Robert Opdycke. He's the Director of Museo at the Roxbury Latin School from Boston, Massachusetts. So thank you, Robert.
My pleasure. Thank you.